The betrayal began on an ordinary evening, the kind Evan had lived through 100 times without suspicion. The office lights were still on, glowing softly through the glass walls, and the city outside hummed with its usual rhythm. Evan stayed late, as he often did, reviewing numbers, planning the next quarter. Believing he was protecting something solid, he trusted the ground beneath his feet. That trust shattered with a single email. The subject line was harmless. Routine. Paperwork. Evan opened the attachment without fear, skimming until his eyes froze. His name was there, printed neatly, followed by his signature, except it was not his signature. The document transferred full ownership of the company away from him. The date was real, the stamp was real, the authority was real. His hands went cold as understanding crashed into him. He read it again, slower this time, hoping he had misunderstood. He had not. The company he built from nothing, the nights he slept on the office couch, the loans he personally guaranteed, the risks he carried alone, it was gone. Taken quietly, legally, completely. Evan pushed back from the desk and stood, his breath shallow. His first thought was that it had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. Daniel would explain. Daniel always explained things. Daniel was not just his partner. He was the one person Evan never doubted. They met years ago when both were struggling, both hungry, both desperate to prove something. Daniel had charm, vision, and confidence. Evan had patience, structure, and discipline. Together, they worked. Together, they won. Evan grabbed his coat and left the office without turning off the lights. He drove across the city, barely aware of traffic, his mind replaying every meeting, every handshake, every moment where he should have seen the warning signs. The building where Daniel lived rose in front of him, sharp and modern, like a monument to success Evan thought they shared. Daniel answered the door calmly, as if he had been expecting this moment. He did not look surprised. That hurt more than anything. Evan held up the document. Explain this. Daniel glanced at the pages, then met Evan's eyes. There was no shame there, no fear, only certainty. It's done, Daniel said. I didn't want it to come out like this, but it was necessary. The word hit Evan like a slap. Necessary. You forged my signature, Evan said, his voice low. Daniel shrugged slightly. You would have dragged this out? You always hesitate. I made the call. Evan stepped inside without being invited. The apartment was spotless, expensive, filled with signs of a life already moving forward. Evan realized in that moment that Daniel had been planning this for a long time. We built this together, Evan said. You don't get to erase me. Daniel sighed, almost tired. You don't see it. The company needed speed, risk. You were holding us back, holding us back. The words echoed. Evan laughed once, short and sharp. So you steal it. I saved it, Daniel replied. You should be grateful. That was the moment something broke inside Evan. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, like a door closing for good. He left without another word. Daniel did not stop him. Outside, the air felt thinner. Evan walked until his legs burned, until anger gave way to shock, and shock turned into a deep, aching emptiness. He realized he had lost more than a business. He had lost his sense of safety, his belief in loyalty, his faith in his own judgment. That night, Evan sat alone in his apartment, lights off, staring at the reflection of himself in the window. He barely recognized the man looking back. He replayed conversations, jokes, shared victories. He searched for the moment Daniel decided. Evan was disposable. Sleep never came. By morning, the shock hardened into something sharper. Evan began reading contracts, clauses, timelines. He moved fast, absorbing everything, understanding how it had been done. Daniel had been careful, precise. The betrayal was not emotional. It was calculated. Evan felt anger rise, but it did not explode. It focused. He remembered the early days when Daniel depended on him for everything. When Evan defended Daniel from investors, from critics, from his own mistakes. Evan remembered believing loyalty was a shield. Now he understood it was a weakness. Days passed and Evan moved through them like a machine. He answered calls, gave short responses, avoided questions. Inside, something darker was forming. Not rage, purpose. He began to notice things he had ignored before. The way Daniel cut corners, the way he exaggerated success, the quiet deals that never felt right. Evan had questioned them once. Daniel had laughed them off. "You worry too much," Daniel used to say. Now Evan listened differently. At night, Evan wrote notes, names, dates, patterns. He did not rush. Revenge, he knew, required patience. And patience was something he had always had, yet beneath the planning there was pain. Real pain. Evan mourned the man he thought Daniel was. He mourned the future he believed in. He mourned the version of himself that trusted too easily. Sometimes doubt crept in. He asked himself if he deserved it. If he had missed something obvious, this was the cost of ambition. Then he remembered Daniel's calm face. The word, necessary. That doubt burned away. Evan no longer wanted explanations. He wanted balance. As the city moved around him, unaware of the quiet war beginning, Evan made a silent promise. He would not be erased. He would not be forgotten. And he would not let betrayal go unanswered. The first step was understanding the enemy. And Evan understood Daniel better than anyone ever had. Evan did not rush. He learned early that fast anger makes careless choices, and careless choices destroy good plans. Instead, he rebuilt himself quietly. Each morning, he woke before sunrise, drank his coffee without taste, and reviewed what he had learned the night before: numbers, messages, old emails. Small details that once seemed harmless now formed a clearer picture. Daniel had not just taken the company, he had rewritten the story of its success. Evan's name slowly disappeared from presentations, from interviews, from investor meetings. It was as if Evan had never existed. That hurt more than the loss of money. Being erased felt like a second betrayal. Evan stayed invisible on purpose. He did not argue publicly. He did not threaten lawsuits. He did not demand apologies. People mistook his silence for weakness. Daniel certainly did. Daniel was thriving. He moved into a larger office, spoke at events, and smiled for cameras. He told stories about risk and courage, about hard choices leaders must make. He never mentioned Evan. In his mind, he believed he had done nothing wrong. The company was growing. The numbers proved him right. Success, Daniel believed, justified everything. But success has a way of exposing cracks. Evan watched from a distance. He spoke to former employees quietly, not asking questions directly, only listening. People talked more than they realized. They complained about pressure, about rushed decisions, about deals that felt unsafe. Evan never reacted. He only stored the information away. At night, alone, the weight of revenge pressed on him. Some evenings the anger burned hot, and he imagined the moment Daniel would finally look afraid. Other nights, exhaustion took over, and Evan wondered if letting go would be easier. Healing sounded peaceful. Revenge sounded powerful. The struggle exhausted him. Kevin questioned himself constantly. Was he becoming someone he did not recognize? Was he letting bitterness shape him? He remembered how calm and focused he used to be, how he believed problems could be solved without destruction. Now every solution he imagined ended with Daniel losing everything. That scared him. Meanwhile, Daniel began to feel something he could not name. Restlessness. He worked longer hours, snapped at people more often, and slept poorly. He told himself it was pressure. Leadership was lonely after all. Still, Evan's silence bothered him. Evan should have fought. Evan should have made noise. Silence felt like a threat. Daniel checked his phone more often. He reviewed emails. Twice, he avoided certain questions during meetings. He reminded himself that the deal was legal, clean, final. Yet the memory of Evan's eyes on the night of the confrontation haunted him. Not anger, not begging. It's just a quiet understanding that something had ended. Evan's plan slowly took shape, not as an attack, but as a mirror. He did not want to destroy Daniel with lies. He wanted the truth to do the work. Truth, Evan believed, lasted longer. He found proof of rushed contracts, of promises made without, full backing of financial pressure hidden behind confident language. None of it was illegal on its own. Together, it painted a risky picture. Investors would not like risk. Partners hated uncertainty. Evan began setting quiet meetings, not revealing who he was at first. He spoke carefully, choosing words that raised concern without accusation. People listened. Some remembered Evan and looked embarrassed when they realized who he was. Others looked curious. A few looked afraid. Still, Evan hesitated. One night, as rain hit the windows of his apartment, Evan sat staring at his notes. He imagined pressing forward, exposing everything, watching Daniel fall. He imagined the relief afterward. He also imagined waking up empty, revenge completed, nothing left to chase. Was that freedom, or was it another prison? He thought about the years he lost building the company. He thought about trust and how easily it was broken. He thought about the version of himself who believed loyalty mattered. The desire for revenge pulled him forward. His conscience pulled him back. Daniel, sensing pressure, began making mistakes. He pushed harder, cut deeper, demanded faster results. People noticed. The culture shifted. What was once collaborative became tense. Confidence turned sharp. Daniel told himself Evan was gone. Still, he avoided mirrors late at night. Evan reached a turning point when he ran into an old employee at a cafe. The man spoke openly without knowing Evan's full story. He talked about stress, about fear, about feeling disposable. Evan recognized the same words Daniel once used. On him, you either survive, the man said, or you disappear. Evan walked home in silence. He realized revenge was no longer just personal. If he acted, others would be affected. If he stayed silent, the pattern would continue. That night, Evan slept for the first time in weeks. Not well, but enough. By morning, he made a decision. Not the final one, but the direction. He would move forward carefully, not to destroy, but to correct. Not to hurt, but to reveal. Daniel stood on a stage days later, speaking about leadership. Evan watched online, unseen. Daniel looked confident. But Evan noticed the stiffness in his shoulders, the forced smile. The pressure was showing. Evan closed his laptop. The path ahead was clear, but the final step still waited. The real battle was no longer between two men. It was between who Evan was and who revenge was trying to turn him into. The moment arrived without warning on a quiet morning that looked like any other. Evan woke before his alarm, his chest tight, his thoughts already racing. He knew this day would decide everything. The months of watching, waiting, and weighing his conscience had led here. One step forward would expose the truth fully. One step back would let the past remain buried. Both paths carried a cost. He dressed simply and left his apartment as the city began to stir. The air was cool, sharp, and awake. Evan walked with purpose, not toward Daniel's office, but toward clarity. His phone buzzed with messages he had expected. Investors were asking questions. Partners wanted explanations. The pressure had reached its peak. All it would take was one clear statement from Evan to tip the balance. Daniel felt it too. He arrived at the office early, pacing the glass-walled conference room. The company that once felt like a victory now felt fragile. Meetings stacked up. Emails demanded answers. He told himself this was temporary, that strength would carry him through as it always had. Still, his hands shook when he poured his coffee. He thought of Evan again. He hated that name rising in his mind. He had buried it, erased it, convinced himself it no longer mattered. Yet here it was, heavy and unavoidable. Daniel wondered if Evan was behind this sudden doubt spreading through the company. The idea made him angry, then uneasy. He had expected resistance, not silence. Silence felt smarter. Evan sat on a park bench near the river, his phone resting in his hand. The water moved fast, never stopping, never looking back, he thought, about how much he had changed since the betrayal. He was sharper now, harder in some ways, but also more aware. He saw how easily power twisted people, how quickly success justified cruelty. A message came in from an investor asking directly for Evan's account. No more hints, no more quiet concerns. This was the door opening. Evan closed his eyes and breathed. He imagined calling Daniel, confronting him again, forcing an apology. He imagined revealing everything publicly, watching Daniel lose the admiration he chased. The images brought no peace, only noise. Then Evan imagined another outcome, one where he spoke the truth without bitterness. One where he let others decide what to do with it. One where revenge did not become his identity. He opened his eyes and typed. He answered clearly, simply, without drama. He explained his role in the company, the values he tried to protect, and why he left. He did not accuse, he did not exaggerate. He shared facts, timelines, and decisions, and nothing more. When he finished, he felt lighter, as if something had loosened inside him. Daniel's day unraveled quickly after that. A meeting meant to calm concerns turned tense. Questions came faster than answers. Data was challenged. Assumptions were tested. Daniel felt control slipping through his fingers. He pushed back, raised his voice, tried to dominate the room. Only made things worse. When the meeting ended, Daniel sat alone, staring at the empty chairs. He realized the truth he feared most was not exposure. It was recognition. People were seeing him clearly for the first time. By evening, the board requested a review. Not a punishment, not a removal. A review. The word echoed like a warning. Daniel knew what it meant. The story he had built was cracking. Evan spent the evening walking, letting the city carry him forward. He felt no joy, no victory, only calm. For the first time since the betrayal. His thoughts were quiet. He had chosen honesty over destruction. Whether that choice helped or hurt him no longer felt like the point. Daniel, alone in his office late that night, finally faced himself. He replayed the moment he decided to cut Evan out. He had told himself it was leadership, vision, strength. Now it felt smaller. Fear dressed as courage. Pride pretending to be necessity. He wondered what would have happened if he had talked to Evan instead. If he had trusted partnership instead of control. The questions arrived too late. Days passed. The company did not collapse, but it slowed. Deals were reviewed. Promises were examined. Daniel stepped back under pressure, officially temporary, but the message was clear. The era of unchecked control was over. Evan received offers. Some wanted him to return. Others wanted him to start again elsewhere. He listened carefully, choosing nothing right away. He was no longer chasing replacement victories. He wanted meaning, not revenge. One afternoon, Daniel reached out. The message was short. No excuses, no defense, just a request to talk. Evan considered ignoring it. He owed Daniel nothing. Still, he agreed. Not for closure, but for understanding. They met in a quiet cafe, far from offices and attention. Daniel looked different. Tired, smaller, not broken, but stripped of illusion. I was wrong, Daniel said, without drama. I told myself I was doing what had to be done. I wasn't. Evan listened. He felt no anger rise, only distance. I don't want anything from you, Evan replied. I just wanted the truth to exist. Daniel nodded slowly. I see that now. They parted without promises, without forgiveness, without war. Evan walked away feeling complete. In the weeks that followed, Evan chose a new path. He joined a smaller team, one built on transparency and balance. He carried lessons with him, not scars. He trusted again, but carefully. He spoke honestly, even when it slowed progress. Sometimes late at night, he thought about how close he came to letting revenge consume him. How easy it would have been to destroy instead of reveal. Thought humbled him. Revenge, he learned, offers power but demands payment. It feeds on attention, on obsession, on loss. Truth, when handled with care, offers release. Evan did not win in the way he once imagined. There was no applause, no dramatic fall. T reclaimed himself. K in that, he realized, was the only victory that mattered.